South Carolina versus North Carolina in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I think this is formerly known as the Belt Bowl. And to bring you the information today, I got somebody who is all day, every day Gamecock. He is from the Spurs Up Show. Got over 2.3, I guess 2,300 subscribers on YouTube, over 17,000 followers on Twitter. We're going to go ahead and bring Chris in so he can help us jumpstart this video. What's going on, Chris?
Man, appreciate you having me, man. It's a pleasure to join you. Excited to talk some ball. And yeah, it's funny you say it's formerly called the Belt Bowl. It is, because the last time I was there, it was the Belt Bowl in 2018. And that was my one bowl game experience in my entire life. And South Carolina lost to Virginia 28-0. So I will be making my second ever bowl experience when I travel to the Duke's Mayo Bowl on December the 30th. And I'm thinking this one's got to be better than the last one. I don't think it can get much worse, right? 28-0, getting blanked by an ACC opponent. So I'd like to think we're going to have a much more fun experience. Even if we don't win, it's going to be more fun than the last time I was there. But no, seriously, man, I appreciate you having me on. Excited to talk some ball for sure.
No problem, man. Tell everybody where they can find you, your podcast, and all that good jazz.
Yeah, so we have our website, thespursupshow.com. We're all over social media, man. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We're even on TikTok as well. Twitch, you can find our podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube, of course, like you mentioned. So, I mean, we're really all over, man, anywhere and everywhere you can think of, anywhere you listen to podcasts, anywhere you go on social media. I try to be as well-rounded as possible and try to hit people from every single angle. So like I said, really anywhere you can think of, we're on there. So,
all right. And if you're on Twitter, you can find them at the Spurs Up Show. That's at the Spurs Up Show. It'll be
below. And it's gonna be at the Spurs Up Show on every single platform. So at the Spurs Up Show on every single platform. Yep.
There we go. So man, we'll go ahead and get right into it, man. Like you said, that last bowl game for South Carolina against Virginia in the Belt Bowl. As a UGA alum and fellow SECer, it wasn't a good look for the SEC, but hopefully this one will be a little bit better. So how are you feeling about Beamer's first year at South Carolina?
Feeling great, man. Feeling great. I mean, you hit bowl eligibility like you mentioned, and that was, over the summer we talked about what would be a successful year one for Shane Beamer taking over the program in the state in which he did, the previous regime. South Carolina in 2019 and 2020 had won just 6 games in those 2 seasons combined. So for Shane Beamer to get this football team to 6-6, I mean, it's a ton of turmoil and controversy and just the roller coaster type of season it was. You lose your starting quarterback in the preseason, Luke Doty, and you have to play an FCS transfer, or you get to play a grad assistant to start fall camp. And so to get this team and navigate this team to 6 wins, again, it was up and down. I know a lot of fans are still disgruntled about Marcus Satterfield on the offensive side of the football because the offense certainly struggled. But, of course, your defense overachieved with guys like Jalen Foster leading the way, 5 interceptions, an all-conference, all-American type of player. But, overall, when you look at it from the grand scheme of things, man, and you inject, truly inject perspective, I've preached on it a ton. It was a job well done. It is a job well done by Shane Beamer and his staff, man, to, amidst, again, all the adversity, like you said, you look at any other football team, man, in college football, you lose your starting quarterback and you go into your 3rd string quarterback for the last quarter of the season. Not many teams are going to be able to navigate through that and recover from that. And for South Carolina to be able to, again, did they win ugly at times? Yes. A lot of times they did win ugly. And Shane Beamer made the point after the season that in 5 of the 6 wins the Gamecocks had, they were come from behind wins. So for Shane Beamer, I look at it this way. For Shane Beamer to hold this thing together, a first-year coach with this roster, again, these aren't his players he recruited. So this thing could have gone any which way after you get blown out against Georgia. You get blown out against Tennessee. You get blown out against Texas A&M. Things could have crumbled. Players could have started to go their own direction, say, oh, this guy doesn't know what's best for me. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, if you've ever been in a locker room and there's a change of any sort, you start to question things. No, Shane Beamer held this thing together, the culture he's building. Everyone believed in one another, played for one another, fought for one another. And again, you find yourself now, it certainly didn't end the way we all wanted with the rivalry game against Clemson at home, but you find a way to beat Florida, beat Auburn. And who cares what state those programs are in? Because guess what? South Carolina was in a very questionable state this year also. Somebody had to win those games. So for the Gamecocks to be able to take advantage of those at home, and then again, shout out Jason Brown for what he did helping the Gamecocks get to bowl eligibility and playing good football in those games. But to beat Florida and Auburn at home and get to 6 wins and get to bowl eligibility in his first season, again, it's a job well done. And again, it's something I think he's going to be able to sell on the recruiting trail. You've already seen it with getting Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner from Oklahoma to Columbia. So again, I think for the most part, I think 97% of Gamecock fans are thrilled with how year one went. I think those who came into this season, with realistic expectations, again, man, the over-under for wins was set at 3.5. And I picked this team to go 6-6, 3-5 in the SEC, which is exactly where they finished up. But that was with a healthy Luke Doty. I mean, if you'd have told me Luke Doty would have missed the majority of the season, and then even when he played, my friend, would not have been healthy. I mean, he didn't take a single healthy snap all year. I probably would have picked this as a 3 or 4 win team. So for Shane Beamer to be able to pull all the right strings, he's the one that had to make the decision to put Zeb Nolan on scout or put him on the roster, and he's the one that had to make the decision to insert Jason Brown. For them to be able to pull all the right strings and get this team to 6 wins, get to the bowl eligibility again, it's a job well done in his first year for sure.
Okay. And so anytime during this first year, like when he had to choose Zeb Nolan and things of that nature, where you kind of like, I don't know if we got the right guy, or you was just like, I'm just going to wait to the end of the season and see how it pans out?
No, I believed in Beamer. I believed in Beamer because, again, I didn't see – and this is no disrespect to him, but I didn't see Jason Brown as the answer, if you will. I knew the kid had transferred him from St. Francis, FCS level, and just heard things behind the scenes that, he just wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to go. And then Colton Gauthier, you had as a true freshman. He wasn't ready to play either. So, I mean, certainly it was an interesting move. It was a story that took college football by storm. But Zeb Nolan had, he had an experience. He had background. He played at Iowa State. He played at North Dakota State, who, by the way, just won last night. It's going to the FCS National Championship. So, he had played good football before. I never doubted Shane Beamer. And again, I think it would be silly and foolish to overreact to one decision, especially when it happens in the middle of the season. It's like, hey, let's see things play out. Let's see what happens. And again, I'm a guy, man, innocent until proven guilty. This isn't a Muschamp situation where he had already been somewhere else and completely butchered the quarterback, position, and you knew he was a guy who just completely destroys quarterbacks. Let's at least give Shane Beamer the opportunity to, hey, he's a first-year coach. He's going to be learning on the go. We said that a lot over the summer. He's a first-year coach. He hired a pair of coordinators who had never called a play at the Power 5 level. So, again, give them an opportunity to, again, this is going to be a learning experience for them as well. Shane Beamer is, people were asking for the season, how good of a coach do you think Shane Beamer is going to be, or how good of a coach do you think he is? And the answer is you just don't know, because, hey, what happens when it's 4th and 1 late in the fourth quarter and you're down by 4 and you're on the opponent's 40-yard line? What do you do? Because I don't think he even knows, right? You're going to learn as you go, and you're going to sort of evolve into the coach that you're going to be. And, hey, Shane Beamer is going to be a much better coach in year 5 than he was in year 1. At least we sure hope so. So, no, I never doubted those moves at all. I mean, certainly, again, it was a very auspicious place to be in. But, again, when your starter goes down and you don't have great quarterback depth, and you kind of just have to do what you got to do. And so I actually commend the coaching staff for, doing maybe something that was a risk, taking a risk, and maybe the unpopular thing to bring a guy like Zeb Nolan out of a GA role and put him on the roster and make him your starting quarterback. So, no, it never, I told people, man, and, listen, I'm as critical as any, and I'll be very honest and blunt about the state of things. But I tell people also, man, I didn't put the guy's name on my merchandise to bail halfway through year 1. You know what I mean? I'm in it. I'm in it for the ride with Shane Beamer, man. I believe Shane Beamer is going to make the best possible moves to the University of South Carolina. He wanted this job. He said it's his dream job. He's going to do everything in his power to get this program where it needs to be. And I think it's really personal for him, and I think it means a lot. So when he makes those type of moves, those type of decisions, they're not always going to pan out. You kind of just live and you learn. But no, I never flinched, never doubted Shane Beamer, what he was trying to do throughout the season.
That's what's up, man. And I think that's the consensus from any of the South Carolina fans that I talk to anyway, especially one of my best friends, the guy, Jeff the Stat Guy, the guy that you on Twitter, man. He's a huge South Carolina fan, man. Now, he actually picked the Gamecocks with a healthy Luke Doty to go 8-4, but I had picked them to go 6-6 with two guys splitting the Florida and Tennessee game. I actually picked every loss. Like down to, I figured you would beat Tennessee, lose to Florida, or vice versa, and you guys did that. And like you said, it doesn't matter.
That's where I was at. I had actually picked a win over Tennessee and a loss to Florida. I picked like a 1-point loss to Florida, so I thought that was the best opportunity for sure for an upset. And I mean, sure enough, it worked out that way. But yeah, the Tennessee one was definitely where I was the most wrong. I actually picked South Carolina to win the week of that game, and yeah, I felt pretty foolish when we were down 28-0 in the first quarter. So Tennessee, though, give them credit, man. Heupel, they were a lot better this year, I think, than I expected. Hendon Hooker was far better than I expected him to be. So, but yeah, no, for the most part, man, the season, honestly, it went about how I expected.
Yep.
Again, outside of the quarterback thing, I think the only thing that really surprised me was the running game or lack thereof. I think that was the thing, certainly, that was the most disappointing part of the season. But I didn't expect this to be a great passing team, even if Doty was healthy. I thought we were going to be a team that had to lean on the run game. So I tell fans too, again, man, just continue to inject perspective. Perspective is my favorite word. I mean, if you'd have told me before the season the quarterback situation and how porous the run game would have been, and then you'd have told me South Carolina went 6-6, I'd have said, what minor miracle happened? Because I mean, again, for this team to get to 6 wins with as bad as the run game was, and again, a lot of it goes back to Clayton White and the job he did defensively. I mean, they were so far beyond anything I expected. So yeah, I mean, I would say honestly, the season went about as I expected. And again, I respect the fans that in the preseason where again we're picking the 8 and 4s, but I think a lot of that was getting carried away with the honeymoon phase and the hype of a new coach and the garnet glasses and stuff like that. Again, I think this team was never an 8 and 4 type ball club. This was a 5 and 7, maybe 6 and 6 team. And again, so to get to 6 and 6, like I said before, man, is a fantastic accomplishment in year one.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And coming into the season, I actually thought the running game would be better too, but I think it was thrown off because of the health of Harris, Harris at the beginning.
Kevin Harris
at the beginning of the season. Now, some of the South Carolina fans I talked to expected big things out of Marshawn Lloyd, but I told them to temper that because when you're coming off an ACL tear, it normally takes about 18 months to get back to the old you. And
right.
Now, I did think Zaquandre Wright was going to play a bigger part, but I don't think he got the ball enough. But that's just my personal opinion. But especially once Kevin Harris showed that he wasn't fully healthy. So, like you say, I think Shane Beamer patched it together and came up with some big wins during the season, again, regardless of how those programs were. So, and at the end of the season, I ain't going to lie, man, I actually thought y'all might have had a shot to beat Clemson. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we all did. We all did, man. We all did. We all did.
So, man, we'll go ahead and get into some just some little random numbers, man, before we actually hit on what we think is gonna happen in the game. South Carolina's coming into the bowl season, 23 bowls total, 9-4 bowl record. Last bowl was the 2018 Belt Bowl, like you mentioned earlier, lost to Virginia. North Carolina's coming in, bowl record, 35 bowls, 15 and 20 in those bowls with a loss to Texas A&M in the 2020 Orange Bowl. Just a crazy stat, man. When I'm doing these bowl previews, man, I'm finding that most teams have losing records in bowls. It's crazy like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, South Carolina, you mentioned it, man. We're 9-14 in bowl games. We haven't been to a ton of them. I mean, South Carolina, I don't know if you realize this, man. I don't know how much you know about like the history of Gamecock football. We didn't win our first bowl game until 1995.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about how long, South Carolina's been playing football for over 100 years. They played football for basically 100 years.
Yeah.
Because I think they started playing like 1896. They played for 100 years before they won a single bowl game. I mean, listen, I'm as big a Gamecock as there is, but I can be very real and transparent with you about like our history and tradition or lack thereof on the gridiron. So, I mean, listen. And this is a whole other topic of the conversation because again, I told you, off the air, the pre-show that a lot of our conversations move to, the opt-outs and transfer portal and bowl season. How do you fix it? And man, I still say at the University of South Carolina, if you're a Gamecock fan and winning a bowl game is not a big deal to you, I think you're just completely misguided, missing the mark because you've only won 9 of them in your history. So yeah, maybe you're not winning an SEC championship, maybe you're not in the playoff, maybe you're not doing this or that, but hey, you got the opportunity to get your 10th bowl win, to get to double digits. So, but yeah, that is interesting that most teams that have a losing record. I doubt there's many that have winning records. I don't know. I guess it's maybe because you're playing an unfamiliar opponent, and a lot of times you are playing just better competition. So I don't know. That's an interesting stat for sure.
It is, man. I think so far it was a team that I didn't expect. I want to say like Maryland has, but they haven't played in a lot of bowl games. But they had like a winning record
Right.
because they're like I don't know, like 7-5 or something like that. But everybody that's played in
Gotcha.
a decent amount of bowl games has not winning record in bowl games. But I didn't know that you guys didn't win the first bowl game until like
Yeah.
1995. But
95 CarQuest Bowl with Steve Tannehill at quarterback over West Virginia. Yeah.
Got you. I do, but I have lived through, I guess, vicariously through some of my friends. Plus, my best friend played at South Carolina during the Lou Holtz days, Jamel Kelly. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Legend.
that.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Legend.
So he was actually supposed to come to Georgia, but then we hired Jim Dunning, and
Then he then he
he
then he came to Carolina and beat Georgia in 2000 and 2001.
Yeah, he did. We had our little back and forth about that, but you guys went through a little period there where you didn't win any games, so it wasn't a lot of smack
Yeah.
talking going on.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, man. When you sound like definitely like a realistic fan, man. Like if you South Carolina,
Yeah.
especially outside of those couple years with Spurrier, man. If you win in a bowl game and going 8-4, 9-3. Like that's huge,
It's a fantastic year, man. I'll give you some more perspective, and I might butcher the number here, but South Carolina has only won 9 or more games in its history. I think like 8 times.
I
So
didn't know that. Didn't.
yeah. So again, I am a very realistic man. The numbers are the numbers, like you say, man. They're just statistics, whatever. And it's not an indictment on Shane Beamer's doomed here or South Carolina football forever is doomed, whatever. It's a new era, it's a new age. And if you really want to talk about it, the Gamecocks have had the greatest 20-year run in the history of their program. What Lou Holtz did, what Steve Spurrier did. And, nowadays 6-6 is a bad year for some people. And I remember, mid 2000s, like when Spurrier first got there, not to sound like an old head or anything, like going 6-6 was. I mean, I'll never forget 2004 specifically, man, when South Carolina beat Arkansas to get their 6th win. It felt like we won the Super Bowl. I mean, truly. So, it's great that the expectations have risen and that the standard has risen.
Yeah.
But make no mistake, man. I mean, that's why I see some Gamecock fans on my platform and fans of the show and whatever. The beauties and the banter, as we always say. But people that are freaking out over Shane Beamer's first year and upset and irate and kicking and screaming the Gamecocks went 6-6. My message to them is, and again, this might sound really harsh, but my message is: listen, you're not a Bulldog, you're not a Buckeye, you're not a Trojan, you're not a Longhorn. You're a Gamecock. Hey, right now, going 6-6, if you can win the bowl game and you went 6-6, you had a great year. Our goal is not the college football playoff right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of college football fans, and again, I could go off on a long rant on this. A lot of college football fans just set themselves up for failure because their expectations are so astronomically high. When right now, and again, that's not to say don't wish for more and want for more, but right now there are 4 teams that will get in the playoff. 4. So, not everybody's playing for the same trophy as Alabama or Georgia right now, which hurts to say. And I know, again, it hurts Gamecocks because your rival to the west and your rival to the north are doing things that have never been done before with Georgia and Clemson, but it is what it is. So, again, you need to worry about what's going on in your building. Let Shane Beamer work. And so, like I said, for South Carolina football, a program that doesn't have great tradition, hey, in the first year of a new coach after you won 6 games the previous 2 seasons, man, getting to a bowl game is a great accomplishment. And again, it's all about now. What happens in the bowl game, we'll see. But going in a year 2, continue to build momentum, keep that positivity, build that culture. And it's going to be a slow grind, and it's going to happen incrementally. But if the Gamecocks, if the fan base, if those involved are willing to give Shane Beamer time, I think there's a good chance that he can get this program to, I'll tell you, man, just to be totally honest, my goal, if the Gamecocks could average 8-4 over the course of a decade, I'd be thrilled. And Shane Beamer would be the greatest coach in school history if he did that, believe it or not. Because, I mean, that's just, South Carolina has not had sustained success like that. And again, if you're going 8-4 every, let's say 3 years, you've got the right quarterback or you've got the right roster, your schedule works for you, what have you, the East is down, and you can realistically compete to go to Atlanta and win an SEC championship. I think that's the type of program South Carolina realistically can be. I really do. I think that is realistic expectations for the South Carolina football program because Carolina's got all the facilities. They got a great fan base. It's a great university. You can get an education. You can do everything you want to do if you're a student athlete at USC. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's realistic for the program. Then once you get to that point, then you can start to say, okay, what do we got to do to get to the next level? But you got to walk before you can, man. So again, I think Shane Beamer did a fantastic job laying the foundation in year one.
That's true, man, and I'm totally with you. I think so many fan bases out there, regardless of their level of play, expect they think their wants and expectations should line up. Like you can want, whatever, but your expectations got to be realistic based on what's going on in that particular season. So, as a Georgia fan, hey man, I got a lot of realistic expectations, man. Like I this sidebar, I think we're gonna beat Michigan and lose to Alabama in the championship. I mean, it's just what it is. What it is. I mean,
Hey, just to let you know, by the way, in the preseason, I picked all the SEC teams. I actually picked Georgia to go 15-0. So I really thought I was like, this is. I mean, I just like this is Georgia's year, man, and that defense is insane. So I tell you, Georgia would be the greatest thing since sliced bread if Alabama just didn't exist.
Hey man, I'll tell you when you doing your previews for Georgia, I always account for Kirby Smart. So, but anyway, man, let's talk about North Carolina and South Carolina. The offense, of course, is North Carolina's strength against defense, which, in my opinion, over these last 20 years, like you say, I think South Carolina's defense has actually been the stalwart for your program, because I did a video earlier this year about the best players from South Carolina since 2000, and the amount of defensive players that you guys have put in the NFL is absolutely ridiculous, considering some of the years, like you say, you haven't had the 9-10 win seasons. But North Carolina's offense is averaging 36 points a game. You guys are only giving up 24, so something's got to give. You know what I'm saying? Their main thing is, of course, Sam Howell. He's throwing for 478 yards per game. You guys normally keep some good DBs. I always say that when we get ready to play y'all. And then you guys are giving up 356 yards of offense in the air. And then they're averaging a lot. I'm sorry, that was 478 total yards per game, and you guys are giving up 356. 259 of that is in the air. But you guys are only giving up 176 in the air, 179 on the ground. So something's got to give here. And I don't know what their opt-outs are. If you're a North Carolina fan watching this, put in the comments who the opt-outs are. And then on the opposite side,
I think they've got a defensive back that's opted out, but they haven't had many. I mean, the fact, again, on the note of Sam Howell, the fact he's playing to me is surprising.
That is
the Spurs Up Show is brought to you by our friends over at Drizzly. Guys, friends over, binge watching your favorite show, cat on your lap. No matter your reasons for wanting to stay put, keep your feet up and get beer, wine, and spirits delivered to you in under 60 minutes with our friends over at Drizzly. Guys, Drizzly is the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits with delivery to your doorstep in under 60 minutes. They're also the #1 app for alcohol delivery, the convenience of home delivery in under 60 minutes when you need it, when you want it. Guys, the convenience, you shop across stores so you can choose from a huge selection and get exactly what you want. You can also get the most value when you shop across multiple stores to compare prices and find the best deals on exactly what you're looking for. Guys, right now our friends at Drizzly are giving all new customers $5 off their first order with the code FAST5. So go download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com and use promo code FAST5 for $5 off your first order.
Really surprising to me. Like we talked about earlier, man. Like if you're not in the playoffs, I just don't see teams keeping up. I'm not saying everybody's opting out, but if you think you're gonna be like a top 3 round player, those guys are like, yeah, we're gonna get ready for the draft. So the fact they don't have many opt outs and you guys don't have many opt outs, that's actually a pretty good testament to each of the respective coaches. On your offensive side of the ball, who's starting at quarterback for the bowl game?
Zeb Nolan. Zeb Nolan will get the start again. Of course, as you know, Jason Brown, after the news that Spencer Rattler came out, which I'm still on cloud 9 from that, man. The fact that we got our quarterback. But, yeah, Jason Brown here in the news decided it was in his best interest to hit the transfer portal and pursue other options. And I don't blame him. You know what I mean? I don't blame him. I put up a pretty strong opinion and put up a clip on that a couple of days ago about, kids making the decision to better their own situations. And thank God, again, we live in a country and an environment where people can do that. So, wish him the best. And I think Gamecock Nation will forever be indebted to him for what he did against Florida and Auburn and helping the Gamecocks get the bowl eligibility. But, he decided that I guess it's in his best interest to go ahead and get a jump on the transfer portal and start talking to coaches. And pursuing other options. So Zeb Nolan is 100% healthy. He will start the bowl game, and Colton Gauthier, the true freshman, will be his backup. So, of course, Luke Doty is still out. He had surgery on that foot. Do we see a guy like DeCarrion Joyner, maybe, who was once a quarterback that's playing wide receiver, come in for some Wildcats or even just play some quarterback? I don't know. I doubt it. But no, Zeb Nolan's going to be the guy against UNC.
Okay. Zeb Nolan didn't do as bad as I actually personally thought he would do. Coming in, he actually was playing pretty decent against Georgia until the guy stepped on his hand or whatever. So that shouldn't be too bad. And then, side note, getting Spencer Rattler, I told my friend once he hit the portal, I figured you guys would get him since Beamer was his recruiter or involved in his recruitment when he was at Oklahoma. So that was huge for you guys. So on the offenses,
huge.
Yeah, huge, exactly. And the tight end, by the way, Stogner. Yeah.
That'll be big time in 2022, man. I mean, we could spend the entire segment or show just talking about that. I mean, I'll tell you the excitement level from Gamecock fans if you want to just get an idea. I went a live reaction Monday night when that happened, and we had 2,000 people in the live watching it, just like reacting, celebrating. I mean, it was incredible, man.
Well, conversely, on the offensive side of the ball for South Carolina and the defense for North Carolina's giving up a lot more yards than you guys are averaging, so that may help out. You guys are averaging 320 a game, and they're giving up over 400 yards a game. Same thing on the ground. You guys are averaging 123 yards a game, but they're giving up 170 yards a game. So I think it's a chance for a win. Like I say, and I'm of the belief I don't like to be grouped in. I personally don't like to be grouped when they talk about the Carolinas. I don't like to be grouped with North Carolina. I'm like, they're their own state. Like, we're our own state. I tell people all the time. I used to have to tell people at college, no, I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan. They're in North Carolina. They're not in South Carolina, and I don't like that. But that's my personal opinion. So how you see this game playing out, man, as far as if you're going to be able to keep up, with the North Carolina offense?
Yeah, that's the biggest question, man. Can South Carolina score enough to win? And I think that was the question moving week to week for Gamecocks football throughout the 2021 season. With the departure of Jason Brown, I view this game, man, just a lot like every other game this season, in the sense of, you mentioned the defense, and just kudos and a continued shout out to Clayton White and Torian Gray, the defensive backs coach. What they did with that defense, man. I mean, you mentioned the numbers. The Gamecocks rank in the top 10 in pass defense this season. I know they had some trouble stopping the run, but top 10 in pass defense. If you'd have told me that before the year, I told you were crazy, because you had a secondary that lost J.C. Horn, Israel Mukwamo to the NFL, John Dixon, Jamie Robinson to the transfer portal. And you had a bunch of guys what felt like a bit of a ragtag roster, for lack of a better way of putting it. And you gave up 260 yards per game through the air in 2020. So not only did you improve, I mean, you drastically, by basically 100 yards, improve. So again, I view this game, though, man, to be honest with you, very similar to how I viewed all the others this year, in the sense of, I think we know what to expect from the defense. My biggest concern is stopping the run. As you see, UNC averages 5.4 yards per carry. Yep. Can you stop the run consistently enough to get them into obvious passing now, the obvious passing situations where the type he expected from him? But, he's still a player that can make you pay. If you're allowing him to get in some second and shorts, and where it becomes unpredictable, and they have the run pass option, if you will, and you're going to put a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on your secondary. Of course, again, the Gamecocks defensive line, and you lose J.J. McBarry, of course. He's declared for the draft. And so that's a major blow for you. Guys like Zach Pickens. I think Jordan Burch is a guy, man, that, only had one sack this year, and he was a former big-time, Georgia wanted him really bad.
Real bad.
Player, and
real bad.
Just hasn't really done much, to be totally honest with you. Has not done a lot since he stepped on campus. So he's a guy, man, you kind of look at and say, man, this is your time to shine with J.J. McBarry being out. Like, what are you going to do? So you need your defensive line, of course, to play really, really well. You need that secondary and a guy like Jalen Foster to be opportunistic. They were very opportunistic throughout the season, led the SEC in takeaways. Jalen Foster, of course, tied for the lead in the conference in picks with 5. So I think your defense will do enough to give you the opportunity to win, basically just like they did throughout the rest of the season. But it comes back to offensively. So abysmal throughout the year. You couldn't run the football football. You averaged, I think, 3.4 or 3.5 yards per carry. Like you said, man, on the defensive side, UNC is allowing 4.5 yards per carry. So you think maybe, hey, even with Jaquandre White heading to the NFL, which would have boost he would have been in this game, but Kevin Harris is starting. Lloyd, you got McDowell, which I feel like we haven't heard. You got plenty of options in the backfield, man, to get the play in this game. All your top offensive guys are going to play, and then Zeb Noland again. Did Jason Brown give this football team the best chance to win? Yes, I believe so, because of the offensive line struggles. Jason Brown certainly was much more mobile in the pocket than Zeb. Now, again, that's not to say that Jason Brown was anywhere near the mobility of a Luke Doty, but he had just enough wiggle. You know what I mean? Just enough wiggle, was just mobile enough to move within the pocket, get outside the pocket, make throws on the run, etc. So your offensive line is going to have to be that much better against that North Carolina defensive front when protecting Zeb Noland, because call it for what it is, man. He's a statue back there. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. He's got concrete shoes on, and he's not going to, mistake anybody to be a track star. But I think he is a good facilitator of the football. He did a good job when he had time. But again, it just all comes down to can the Gamecocks move the football consistently enough? Can they? And again, on our side, can we run the football consistently enough because this is not an offense built to, and not many are, but this one especially, South Carolina is not built to win in third and longs, man. They're just not. If it's 3rd and 7 or longer, might as well just go ahead and call out the punt team, because there's almost no chance they're converting or getting it. You can just pin your ears back as a defense. You can bring the pressure, bring the blitz, and things are going to crumble from there, it seems. So, I'll be very interested to see what the offensive game plan is. Marcus Satterfield's been someone who's been very, very highly criticized, very highly critiqued. And again, I think this coaching staff understands what it has to do. Again, like you said, something's got to give. UNC has not been good defensively. The Gamecocks have been less than stellar offensively. So if you can get something going on the ground, if that Gamecocks running game can be the Gamecocks running game of old, then hey, who knows, right? It's anybody's ball game, but you're going to have to score to win, because your defense is going to do all they can. But if you're going 3 and out, man, Sam Howell's a good player. They've got playmakers on the offensive side. Something's going to give at some point. So I think to win this game, honestly, man, the Gamecocks, you've got to score at minimum 24 points. I think at minimum, UNC's going to score. The irony, I didn't talk about it yet. I didn't lead off with this, but the irony of this game, my friend, I don't know if you thought about this, but the last time these two teams played was Sam Howell's first ever collegiate game in 2019 at Bank of America Stadium. And there's actually some irony for yours truly in that game, because I don't know how much digging you did on my end or if your buddy told you, but that game really served as the beginning of the end for the previous regime and Will Muschamp. And I not so subtly went viral after that game in a bandana and wearing my gold chains and tank top and sunburn, and said, "Fire Will Muschamp," proclaimed "Fire Will Muschamp." And I was really the first one to, with any sort of platform, to vocally go on record and call for his firing. And I went in on him in the video pretty hard, and the video, 35,000 views later, was all over the place. So the irony sort of coming back to that building, this will be the first time I've been back to Bank of America Stadium, and we're playing the same exact opponent with the same exact quarterback. There, it's a bit of an ironic situation. I'm thinking to myself, if it's warming up, I might have to pull out the tank top and the bandana again just for old time's sake. But no, it's hoping for a good game. South Gun has had some very impactful opt-outs for sure, but it's all going to come down to offensively, man. Can you score enough? Because UNC, again, you can hold them down for so long, but come on, man. You're not going to win the game 17-14. You're going to have to score 24, 27, God forbid, maybe 30 points. And I do understand some Gamecock fans' pessimism, if you will, going into this game, because you're coming off a 30-0 shutout against your arch rival. The good news is, though, the UNC defense is nowhere near what you saw in the Clemson defense. So can you move the football consistently enough, man? That's going to be the question.
That's true, man. And like you said, something's got to give. Either North Carolina's defense is going to look better, or South Carolina offense is going to look better. Because
what's scary about that too, man, is something's got to give. And the Gamecocks went to Columbia, Missouri, and took on Mizzou. And you look at the final score of that game, they lost by like 2 or 3 points, whatever. But Missouri had the worst rush defense in college football, basically. And the Gamecocks ran for like 57 yards. So, I mean, there's this is a South Carolina team. Who knows, man? They ran for 284 yards against Florida. I mean, none of it makes sense. Just when you think you got this team figured out, they pull a fast on you. So hey, it comes down to offensive line, and I know it's so just boring to talk about. Oh, it's a line of scrimmage game. But as you know, my man, as a football guy, we can talk. Up tempo points change. The more they stay the same, and if you get your ass whipped physically up front, you're going to lose. You can whoop your opponent if you can impose your will up front. Hey, those teams, the Alabamas, the Georgias, even the Clemsons, the elites, they are dominant in the line of scrimmage. They're dominant up front. So, if South Carolina can impose their will up front and they can win that battle in the trenches more often than they lose, again, as boring and as old head as that might sound, that is what it'll come down to, man. If South Carolina gets physically whipped up front yet again, if the Gamecocks rush for less than 100 yards and UNC's just running for 4.5, 5 yards a carry, the Gamecocks will get run off the field. So that's what it'll come down to.
And not to get too far into recruiting, but you did mention, the trenches and how South Carolina hasn't been as good. Do you think Shane Beamer's trying to address that good, with this class we're going through right now and trying to get better in those trenches? Because like you said, the last couple of years, South Carolina hasn't been that great, especially on the offensive line, not the defensive line, but the offensive line.
Well, yeah, the recruiting class for sure, man. They signed a lot of guys on the defensive side, especially. They signed 6 defensive backs in this recruiting class. Some big-time defensive linemen as well. A couple big offensive linemen, Kason Henry, Ryan Brubaker. I think going into next year, just immediate help. Of course, the transfer portal is it's a reality now, and it's a big part of college football. Yep. I think they're going to go try to grab a couple of offensive linemen out of the portal. I've also heard some rumblings about some defensive guys as well. But, the offensive line needs a lot more help than the defensive front. I just look at the defensive front, though, for the talent that they had this year. They were much more porous against the run, in my opinion, than I think they should have been. Again, when you're talking about guys like Enigbare and the Zach Pickens of the world and Jabari Ellis and the Jordan Birches, and you're like, man, where are some of these guys? Like at South Carolina, again, it's not like Georgia, unfortunately, where you're just getting 5-star after 5-star after 5-star after 5-star every single year. At the University of South Carolina, man, my biggest point is this: you don't get enough 5-stars to miss on them.
Yeah.
So when you get the Jordan Birches, you get the Zach Pickens, hell, you get the Marshawn Lloyds. They better pan out, because you don't get enough of them they just go to waste. You know what I mean? So that's been something really disappointing for me, man. As a guy like Jordan Birch, man, I hate to just continue to harp on the kid. He's a great kid. By all accounts, again, he was highly regarded and highly touted and highly recruited for a reason, but it just hadn't panned out for whatever reason. I mean, he had a big play week 1, and dude, he didn't have a career sack until the 10th game of the season. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
It's just, and I don't know if it's, J.J. Nigbare's hogging up all the big time plays, but man, he has played nowhere near his full potential. So again, maybe a bowl game serves as his opportunity to sort of, burst on the scene and set up a huge 2022. You never know, man. These bowl games, you never know what might happen. But yeah, certainly, I think they're addressing those needs, no doubt. I think they did a good job in the class addressing the needs, especially defensively, and I think offensively, they're going to focus a lot heavier on the portal. Again, you've already seen them do that with Rattler and Stogner. But listen, Shane Beamer knows, man, hey, you got Spencer Rattler. Great. You ain't got nobody to protect him. It ain't going to mean a whole lot. So they've definitely got to go out and get some O-linemen, and I think they will.
I definitely agree with all that. Well, a good thing about Spencer Rattler, he's a little bit more mobile than anybody you've had here. So, but I'm with you on the Jordan Birch. Georgia did want him really hard. I think it came down to the final hour, and he went with South Carolina. And actually, at one point, Georgia wanted Zach Pickens. And those 5-stars, like you say, you don't get them a lot, so you can't really miss on those guys. But hey, man, I'm with you on the prediction too, man. Honestly, it's hard for bowl games for me because we don't know what the mental state of the players are going to be. Like, if they really want to win, then they come out, or if they just want some swag, and a free trip, then it could turn out, either way. So,
well, that's what makes picking. A lot of us are in like college bowl mania pick'em groups. We all love picking the bowl games. That's what makes picking them so hard. Think about it, man. If you had already locked in on Pittsburgh right now, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? So yeah, it's like you just don't know what is the motivation factor of teams. I can tell you this: I fully expect South Carolina to come out and play with intensity, and at no point did I ever feel this season our team was, we were dragging ass or lollygagging around or weren't giving 110%. Even when we were getting blown out, that was something I think a lot of fans were really proud to see is our guys continue to fight. They continue to fight for Shane Beamer, and it goes to show you what they're preaching behind closed doors is working, and guys are buying into it. You look at UNC though; they didn't have the type of year they thought they would. So
No, they didn't.
what's the motivation? What's the motivation factor for a North Carolina to come in and they're playing the Gamecocks in the Mayo Bowl? I mean, maybe they come out flat and South Carolina's able to take advantage. I mean, you just never know because again, these are 18 to 22-year-old kids. I mean, it's just unpredictable. You never know. They something as silly as getting in a fight with their girlfriend can impact their play on that Saturday. You just don't know. So, I think the Gamecocks, I know the Gamecocks will show up and play their tails off. And, winning a bowl game would be huge momentum. Steve Spurs used to preach on it all the time. When you win your bowl game, it just makes everything better, man. Spring ball, summer workouts, the optimism going in the next season. When you can win your last game, it's a big deal. So, I expect South Carolina to come out and play the right way and fight and battle and fight, scratch, and claw. And, we'll just see if it's enough. I'd love for UNC to decide to not show up and just want to get the Belk shopping spree and give us the W. I'll gladly take it.
Well, with all that unpredictability, man, your best guess, what do you think the score is going to be?
Funny, man, you put me – I actually haven't locked in a score yet. You put me on the spot. But right now, I do think South Carolina, like I said, will come out, battle, play the right way, fight, scratch, and claw. And I think it'll be a back-and-forth game. There's a lot of familiarity between these two schools, these programs. And, hey, it's a big opportunity for South Carolina and really both schools, but for the Gamecocks playing in the city of Charlotte. Charlotte's a huge recruiting territory. And I think that's something South Carolina's going to need to do is start to take back the state of North Carolina from Mack Brown and what they've done. And because you go back over the history of South Carolina football, man, especially the last decade, some of the best Gamecocks have come from the state of North Carolina. You think of the Pharaoh Coopers of the world, and there's a long list of others for sure. But it's just for me with the opt-outs, with Zakondre White, the questions on the offensive line, Zeb Nolan being the starting quarterback. I just don't know how South Carolina moves the ball effectively enough, consistently enough to keep up with UNC. I think your defense again will. Do what they've done all season and give you a chance, give you an opportunity. But again, at some point, Sam Howell's a good player. He's a good quarterback. You have struggled at times stopping the run this year. And for those reasons, again, man, I just don't know how offensively the Gamecocks are going to keep up with the Tar Heels. And I hate to say that, but I got UNC winning this one again. I think it's a back and forth game, but I think the Gamecocks will cover the spread. But I think UNC does get the W. I'll take this is again just off the top of the head. I'll say Heels 27, South Carolina 20. I think it's a close game. I really do. I don't think either side is going to pull away and it be some blowout or whatever. And again, I think the Gamecocks. I think Zeb Nolan will play quality football. I don't be wrong, but can the Gamecocks run it consistent offensive line, get enough of a push? They haven't shown against anybody this year, by the way, they can do that. And again, UNC at some point. They're going to make plays. Sam Howell's a good player. Like I said, he's got weapons on the outside. So I think UNC just got a little more than South Carolina right now, and I think they get the 27-20 win.
Okay, I can definitely go with that, and that's kind of my sentiment. I think actually South Carolina, this bowl game kind of, like you said, means more than it does to North Carolina because North Carolina had bigger expectations coming in with a lot of returning players and picked to win the ACC Coastal and all of that. And Sam Howell was a Heisman Trophy candidate at preseason, all that stuff. So I think South Carolina will come out and be a little bit more charged up. And I mean, even to the point where I wouldn't be surprised to see South Carolina up at halftime. But I'm kind of like you. Eventually, I think Sam Howell is just too much because he can throw the ball, and I think he'll be much more of a threat on the ground, to be honest with you, because he can run the ball too. So I got him winning like 27-17, something like that. But like I said, don't be surprised if South Carolina's up at halftime, and then don't.
I mean, again, you never know, man. Like I said, the motivation factor. I mean, you just never know. That's what makes these bowl games. Again, unpredictable, really fun, but I think too, a lot of it, man, it's so hard to pick the Gamecocks to have some offensive outburst after they just got shut out. So listen, if South Carolina's going to win this game, I think it's going to have to be a 21-20, 24-21. And I just like you're saying, man, I love our defense. They've been incredible all year. I don't think you hold them down that long to that low of a score. I think for the Gamecocks to win, they got to score at least 24, probably more like 27 or 30. And I just don't think right now you have the firepower to do so.
Well, there you have it, people. Chris from the Spurs Up Show, right on the spot, what he thinks may go down. And of course, we still got another week or so for these bowl games, so a lot can change. Somebody could choose to opt out tomorrow for all we know. But we want to appreciate you coming on, Chris, man, and chopping up the Duke's Mayo Bowl, formerly the Belt Bowl, with us. And for everybody out there in YouTube land, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for more content. And check out Chris and the Spurs Up Show anywhere on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. It's all the Spurs Up Show. So do that for them. And don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe for Chris and the Spurs Up Show. This is